Good morning, everybody. I'd like to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Monterey County Planning Commission for July 10th, 2024, and ask Commissioner Mendoza, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you, thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Getzelman,
Here.
Commissioner Gomez,
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Work,
Here.
Commissioner Mendoza,
Here.
Commissioner Deal,
Here.
Commissioner Roberts,
Here.
Commissioner Monsalve,
Here.
Commissioner Daniels, and Chair, we have Commissioner Shaw absent today, but you do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the secretary to let everybody know how they can participate remotely in this hearing if they would like to do so. Ms. Moretti?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. So for individuals who are joining us via Zoom or by phone today, you can participate during public comment on the Zoom platform by raising your hand, by opening the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and clicking raise hands, and you can do the same for lowering. If you're on a mobile or landline phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9. Also, another way that people can participate is by sending an email to pchearingcomments@co.monterey.ca.us. This email is also found on today's agenda. Staff does monitor that email during the hearing. However, we cannot guarantee that emails that come in during the hearing will all be responded to. For members of the public who are granted permission by the meeting clerk to speak during public comment, you will receive a prompt to unmute yourself. So you will need to accept that prompt and unmute yourself. And then if you are on phone, you can do so by pressing *6 to mute and unmute. Thank you very much.
And thank you. I love the Zoom option because it's such a big county, so I really think it's helpful for people who are far away to be able to keep in touch. Here's the time set aside for members of the public to comment on items that are not on today's agenda, but that are under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Is there anybody in the chambers who would like to do that? I don't see people coming forward. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to do that? I don't see any hands. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything?
Through the chair, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails on non-agenda items.
Thank you. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and close that section of the agenda and move along to the agenda additions, deletions, and corrections. Madam Clerk?
Good morning, thank you. Correspondence was received and distributed by email and on the dais for agenda item number 3, PLN 200032, Flores, Paul H. and Linda S., and agenda item number 5, PLN 140602, Jimenez Salvador Jr. Trust, aka the Red Barn.
Thank you. I see everybody's looking at those, so apparently they're available. Are they available for the public as well up front if you want them? I believe so. Great, thank you. So this is the time set aside for commissioners to comment, request, or refer items. Is there anybody on the dais who would like to do that? Commissioner Daniels?
Thank you. And my microphone, it's on, but I usually have it on this side. So actually, so just go like that. Perfect. I do have a question, and this is in regards to the Big Sur land use plan. And we have had several public comments as well as a letter from a law firm. I'm not going to get their name correct, but Shute, Mahaley, and Weinberger maybe in San Francisco. And it's regarding visitor serving units and the cap on visitor serving units. And the request that we have had is whether or not there can be a cap a moratorium placed on visitor serving units in the Big Sur land use plan area while the land use plan update is being conducted. And the concern is regarding just a dispute in the total cap and whether or not we've exceeded that cap or reached that cap. And so the question I would have as a referral would be whether or not the county can just respond, so we're not just leaving this question hanging as to what a moratorium can and cannot do, and if we were to do something like that, how would we get there, and what that would look like, just so we can have a response to this ongoing question that seems to be coming with regularity, both at the public meetings that we're having on the land use plan update and in public comment during the workshops that we've been holding.
Thank you. Staff, is that clear?
Yes, and I can work with the Office of County Counsel and figure out what that process would look like, and probably return fairly shortly with a response here to the commission, and then based on that, a formal response to those requests.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Nothing this morning. All right, then. I'm going to go ahead and close that section and move along to item number 1, which is the Planning Commission referrals. Anything you want to say about that, Madam Secretary? Anybody? Yep.
No, I think I just wanted to note, I did provide updates, so please feel free to take a look within the matrix. I tried to provide updates on the suite of referrals. We did have a follow-up. There had been from our response to the referrals, in particular about Pajaro recovery in the levee. So there is a memo attached with current information. So I just wanted to flag that. In particular, there are some dates for community meetings. There will be a public meeting with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on July 11th at 6:30 at the Portuguese Hall in Watsonville, which is 124 Atkinson Lane. So really encourage anyone who wants a more specific update or has questions to participate there. And then we are also anticipating on August 14th is the target date to have our the response to the wildfire rebuilds, follow up with that with some additional agencies. And then we also have the Transportation Agency of Monterey County coming as well. We have them tentatively scheduled for August 14th to give a presentation that was requested on a status update of the Highway 68 roundabouts.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission on the referrals? Seeing none of those, I'm going to open the public comment period. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on anything that's contained in the Planning Commission referral matrix or the memo? No. Is there anybody on Zoom? I see no hands up. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything?
No, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails.
Thank you. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and move on from that section of the agenda to our item number 2, which is approval of the consent calendar. And first thing I'd ask, is there anybody on the dais who would like to pull anything from the consent calendar? I see nobody rushing to the microphone. Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on or pull anything from the consent calendar? Seeing no one in the chambers, is there anybody on Zoom? I don't see any hands up, Madam Clerk. Am I missing anything?
No, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails.
Very well. That being the case, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, anybody? Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yeah, I'd like to move approval of the March 13, April 24, May 29, June 5th, and June 12, and June 26 consent calendar.
So it's just, you're moving the consent calendar and everything that's on it, right?
Right.
Perfect. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Mendoza got in before you, although it was nonverbal. So be moved by Commissioner Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Mendoza that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And the motion carries, and that is approved. Expeditiously getting us to item number 3, which is the first of our scheduled matters. Item number 3 is PLN 20032, there's 3 zeros, 200032, Flores, Paul H., and Linda S. Trust. And I believe, Ms. Zepp, are you going to lead us through this?
Yes, thank you. Let me bring up my presentation. Good morning, Planning Commission and Chair Deal. I'm Zoe Zepp, and today I'll be presenting staff's report on PLN 200032 Flores. This project was continued on January 10th, 2024. The project is located at 25836 Paseo Real within the Greater Monterey Peninsula Area Plan. The parcel has a zoning of low-density residential with a B6 and visual sensitivity overlay zoning district, and a maximum structure height of 20 feet from the average natural grade. The proposed project includes the construction of a single-family dwelling with an attached garage, a pool and non-habitable pool cabana with an attached garage, the removal of 30 protected coast live oak trees, and development on slopes in excess of 25% in the amount of 25,395 square feet. The site plan here shows the proposed single-family dwelling, the pool and pool cabana, and paved driveway. About 1/3 of the lot is a designated conservation and scenic easement to protect an existing oak woodland, steep slopes, and views from Highway 68 and Laurellis Grade. The majority of the lot is open space with a few trees on top of the ridge. The shaded pink areas here represent the estimated areas containing slopes in excess of 25%. The lot is flat at the bottom, closer to the road, but gradually becomes steeper as you travel up the hillside and exceeds 25% near the tree line. A previous permit to allow development of the same lot was applied for in 2005. PLN 050671 included the construction of a single-family dwelling, a new driveway, and removal of 5 protected oak trees. This permit was denied by the Planning Commission, but appealed and approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2007. A construction permit was applied for but never issued, thus the planning permit expired in 2009. Staff identified multiple inconsistencies throughout the course of review. Following the January 10th Planning Commission hearing, the applicant revised their plans to reduce the amount of construction and tree removal and submitted the required documents for staff to determine their application complete. Although the project has been reduced from the original design, the proposed development still does not appear to have been designed to minimize impacts to slopes in excess of 25%, and the proposed removal of 30 protected coast live oak trees does not appear to be the minimum necessary to develop the vacant lot. There are feasible alternatives to construct a single-family dwelling, pool, and pool cabana that could minimize or completely eliminate tree removal and significantly reduce impacts to slopes in excess of 25%. As currently proposed, the project is inconsistent with Monterey County regulations, goals, and policies, and staff cannot make the necessary findings to support the project. Following the January 10th Planning Commission hearing, the applicants attempted to schedule their project for a review by the Greater Monterey Peninsula Land Use Advisory Committee. But unfortunately, that committee does not have enough members for a quorum at this time, so the project was not brought before the Land Use Advisory Committee. Staff received public comment on this project prior to the redesign. 3 comments were letters from neighbors in opposition of the proposed project, and 1 was in support. After the redesign, additional public comment letters were received by neighbors in opposition of the project, mainly due to tree removal and development on slopes. Staff recommends the Planning Commission find the denial of a project is statutorily exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15270 of the CEQA guidelines and deny a combined development permit for the construction of a single-family dwelling with an attached garage, a non-habitable accessory pool cabana with an attached garage, and associated site improvements within the visual sensitivity district, the removal of 30 protected coast live oak trees, and development on slopes in excess of 25%. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Zepp. Are there any technical questions for staff from the commissioners? Anybody on the dais here? Commissioner Daniels?
The staff report through the chair referenced a code violation that would be also cleared in this permit process. What was the violation?
For unpermitted tree removal, and that violation has been cleared.
Okay, thank you. How many trees, actually, just out of curiosity?
There were 2 violations. One of them is from 2021. I would have to look up how many trees were removed there. The more recent one, it was 1 coast live oak tree.
And through the chair, is that included in the total 30 number that we have here before us?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Commissioner Roberts?
I have a question, only because I remember this property from years ago, and I thought that there was a code violation related to trees, maybe even before that as well. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is the open area that the county is suggesting the property be designed and built for part of the area where trees were already removed, I guess?
So I have, if we could bring my slideshow back up. I have an image here that shows the property. It's Google Earth imagery from 2005. So this area has been vacant of any trees since 2005. So this is the area that staff is recommending as a feasible alternative for development. I could bring up Google Earth and go back further, but I think
That's okay. I haven't been here since 2005, so that's what I was trying to figure out. You also showed another image, I guess, of where trees seem to be growing now. Is that what's being proposed to be removed, or this is still the area that is available to be?
So there are trees up on the ridge here. And so this is the tree line. I believe the scenic easement is to protect the majority of the forest. Trees must have grown out further since that easement was put in place. But this is a more recent picture showing the trees. And then this is the proposed development up here. So this is where it would require the tree removal. Originally, the applicant had proposed 4 structures when it came before the Planning Commission in January, and they minimized it down or reduced it down to 2 structures, but those structures are still located up on the ridge where it would impact the existing trees.
One more question. I may be thinking of a different property, but if I'm thinking of the same property, I believe there's at least 1 constructed barn on this property already?
There are no structures on this property.
This is a vacant property.
Yeah, this is vacant.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with a technical question for staff? Commissioner Gomez?
There's a substantial area that obviously, which appears that trees have been removed from in the past, going back to 2005, I guess, based on your imagery. What's the, you say you suggested to the developer to put the project there, but there's no interest at all?
We've had multiple conversations with the applicant about moving the house. They were not interested.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the dais, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward and let us know what's on your mind. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for your time. My name is Chad Brown. I'm a designer, a general contractor, and I have a showroom in the Carmel Plaza. I've been designing and building in Monterey County, Pebble Beach, Carmel, Big Sur for more than 30 years. In that time, I successfully designed and built on difficult sites. Myself, Jack Camp, who's the civil engineer for this project, and the previous Board of Supervisors agree that this is a good location and allowable. I'd like to make a few points to support this. I have a Google image I'd like to share. I believe I can.
I can bring it up on my computer as well. I have the links that Les sent me. Okay,
Yeah, I have something separate.
okay.
Is there a button to press?
they're working on it. We can see it now.
If you look to the far left, that's the proposed site area.
Let's make sure you're on the microphone for the record. You can pull it towards you, yes.
If you look to the left, you see the proposed site area, right? Over here. And then to the right, at a higher elevation, is a similar project with similar scope that's existing and was obviously cut and trees were removed. And if you look further down to the right, similar scope of work, large structures with trees removed and lots of grading. Okay, I just want to make that as one point. You can see that large amount of grading was performed in those areas. At this time, we estimate 200 cubic yards of cut and 2,000 import of engineered soil. This will allow us to build a well-drained building pad at the top of the hill. If we were to build in the lower part of the hill, the home would be subject to water intrusion. We would have to cut and off-haul 4,000 plus cubic yards and build retaining walls up to 25 feet in height. I'm going to show this example here. So the blue lines indicate what we'd have to cut and the amount that would have to be removed. As you can see, the existing drawing that I have on top shows only around 2,000 yards of fill and only about 200 cubic yards of cut. Furthermore, the benefit of building on the top of the hill allows for more natural rainwater drainage, allows for the sewer drainage and space for the leach fields below, allows to have views, outdoor space, which increase the quality of life. We've also discussed with the arborist, the large trees to be removed would be transplanted and remain on site. The small trees will be replaced at a ratio of 2 to 1. When the project is completed, there will be more old growth and new growth oaks. In conclusion, we ask the council to approve this project based on the difficult site and recommendations of the designer, general contractor, civil engineer, and the previous Board of Supervisors. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Daniels?
The question I have is about a statement you made that the previous Board of Supervisors believed this was a good location and allowable. If I recall the picture that we just got, it looked like the Board of Supervisors permit approval was for a house in a different portion of the lot.
So the house is in the same location. We just added an additional structure.
Is there anything that staff wants to add?
Well, we get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, and we'll reserve some time for you to respond should you wish to do so.
Thank you.
We'll open it to comment from members of the public. Everybody who would like to speak will have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Show that picture again. I'm Nelson Vega. I own the house directly across. I'm probably the one that's most affected by the development here. And I was here when they actually approved the development on the top site. And the reason was this area are estate setting homes. So they want to be back from the property line, and I objected because the house that they had designed was much closer to the front. And as the architect has said, it's nicer to move it back. Now, I look at this picture here, and I see a pretty big building, and I'm going to be looking at that for some time. But if that was planted with trees, and they saved some more of those trees and pulled, my feeling is they should pull the cabana down a little bit, down the hillside to save some of those trees. Those trees have been there for a long time, and they're a beautiful canopy of trees. And but also at the same time, I want to balance that with the gentleman's right to develop something there. It's a very unusual lot, and I think if we could pull that cabana down a little bit and have the front part with forested trees, then you would see a forest with a house tucked back inside, and I think it would suffice. But the cabana has to be pulled down because I think it takes out too many trees. And I know the neighbor behind him is a stellar gentleman, was concerned with that being too close. And I think if you pulled it down a little bit and did a lot of old growth trees in that flat area, I think that would just, when you drove by it, it would be driving through a forest and you see a peak of a roof line eventually, and I think it would suffice. This gentleman has been trying to develop this property for some time. I've had this similar problem, but I felt that based on what I have seen, this is the best design, and that's why they approved it the last time, because it was far enough away from the front of the property. We kept the estate feeling of the areas, that the house wasn't on top of the street line. And these are big lots. They're designed to have bigger homes. And so I don't want to sit here and deny this gentleman, because I have a pretty good-sized home, but I'm all on a single level, and mine's a different house. And so I'm ambivalent, but I think it's the right spot for the house. I just like to see that cabana pulled down a little bit, and that in lieu of getting permission to do this, that he plant that area with oaks and put an easement on there that he can't build on it, because the previous plan had a big barn on there. I objected to that. And that if we could get him to give an easement for that property to be only used for drainage and everything else, I would support the plan, providing he pull that cabana down a little bit. And thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to speak on this matter? See nobody in the chambers. Is there anybody on Zoom? I see no hands, Madam Clerk. Am I missing anything?
Yes, there's one hand. It's Google Pixel 7. Let me go ahead and unmute.
Go ahead. Oh. Go ahead.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Good morning. My name is Leslie Ann Spoward, and we live on Lot 19, and we've been here over 30 years. And we did submit a letter, my husband and myself. We are down below. We are on the other side of Mr. Vega's property, so to speak, off of Paseo Real. We are the ones really that are the most affected, simply because of the slope. It's very significant, and it's almost vertical. And when you look at it from the front of our house, our kitchen window, it's very, very threatening to think that they're going to try to take however much off the top without a potentially very, very significant and stable, to say the least, and expensive retaining wall. And we're just very, very threatened by the potential for the erosion to come right back down, right into our kitchen, practically. It's very scary to us. So unless a lot of money is being put into the foundation, which we have no control over, I mean, and perhaps that what was said, perhaps it should be moved closer to the other flatter part of the lot. That is our biggest concern about the runoff. I don't know if there's been a hydrology report of any sort about what's going to happen when that topsoil comes off, aside from removing trees, all the trees that may or may not end up legally or not legally being removed. So those are I think, the biggest concerns. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm here with Leslie Greg Spoward, and basically I agree with her, and I agree with Nelson Vega as well, that I think if just that cabana got moved back and they could preserve the trees, it's just that the pool and the cabana is pretty much on the edge from what I can see, and I think we haven't seen anything about foundation or retaining walls or runoff of water and so forth, which can be a problem up here. So I basically agree with everything my wife just said, and I support what Mr. Vega said as well.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else, Madam Clerk? I'm not seeing it.
No, we do not have any additional hands raised on Zoom and no new emails.
Great. That being the case, I'm going to allow the applicant an opportunity to respond to anything you may have heard.
Chair, may I ask one more question of the applicant?
when they get here, certainly.
Okay. Sorry, yes, you had mentioned that some of the oak trees, and I think you said some of the larger oak trees would be transplanted. What size are the oak trees that would be transplanted?
Say 10 inches and over would be transplanted, and then anything under that would be removed, but then replaced with 2 new growth trees.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, because that's not something I'm aware of, 10 inches is about how tall of an oak tree, do you know?
It varies.
In feet?
Varies, but it has large canopy. I'm not an expert arborist, but
8 feet or more? Could be higher?
it'd be higher, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They're larger, older trees.
Larger and older? Okay, and an arborist told you that that was possible to move trees that size?
It's in the arborist report, and we've done that before.
Thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to point out one thing.
We'll want to make sure you're on the microphone again.
I just wanted to point out one thing about the location of the cabana. If I can have this show up here. So right here, this is the location of the current cabana. Now the dark shaded area is less than 20% slope, so that's why we placed it on top of that area. If we pull it forward, it's going to come into the larger 25% slope. So, and we're also away from the easement line there. We could move it maybe 5 feet, maybe 10 feet at the most. We want to try to keep it out of that 25% slope as much as possible. That's what I'm suggesting. Okay. Are there any other questions for me?
Commissioner Roberts?
It may be for you or staff, I'm either. I'm curious to know if this has been flagged and staked as is proposed?
I believe we had flagging and staking done. Has it been re-staked?
It has not been restaked to my knowledge, but the original design of the proposed house, the ADU, and the pool cabana that was heard on January 10th was staked and flagged, and I went out and viewed those and took some pictures.
Thank you. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment on this item and bring it back to staff. Staff, do you have anything you'd like to add based on what we've heard in public comment or otherwise?
Yes, there was a question earlier about whether the house is located in the same spot as the house that was originally applied for in 2005. The house is majoritively in the same spot, but as the applicant said, there is an additional structure with this application. The original, or the 2005 application also required the removal of 5 protected coast live oak trees as opposed to 30.
Thank you. Commissioner Daniels?
Since that was my question, I just want to follow up. So the approval that was by the Board of Supervisors was pretty much in the same location, the house, but it did not include the pool or the cabana that have been asked about today.
That is correct.
Okay, and it was 5 trees versus 30 trees.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, staff?
I guess just to address moving the pool cabana down, we aren't recommending that they move it into the slope over 25%. We are recommending that the feasible alternative would be the area below, closer to the road, that doesn't contain any slopes in excess of 25%.
Thank you. All right, bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, Commissioner Daniels?
Yes, through the chair to staff, there was some photos of some other homes in the area. Were those homes built on 25% or greater slopes?
I would have to research that. I didn't look into the other houses when they were built and what the natural topography was.
Okay, and there were comments about cut and fill, and am I correct to assume that there's significant cut and fill for this project as well as, I mean, it seems from the report, and I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but retaining walls, cut and fill are required for this project or only for the project below? I guess to clarify my question, there were some statements that were made about challenges with building in the flat area below. Do you agree with those challenges?
It's hard, I don't know if Anna wants to respond to this one, but I'll just say that I never received any plans for an alternative design in the flatter area that would show any restrictions or difficulties from the applicant.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Anna Kinga, if I could add to that, the previous plans that were before the Planning Commission in January included a barn in the lower area, and looking at those plans, there doesn't appear to be any excessive retaining walls.
Thank you.
Structure.
Thank you. Commissioners? I think we're moving along to the deliberative stage. I have my usual reservation, which is the reason this lot is still unbuilt is because it's challenging. And the reason that we have rules is because they're important. And what we hope from our sterling and creative design community is that they design the house to fit the lot and as well as possible to comply with those rules. I'm not aware of a rule that says because someone else nearby has a house of a certain size, then you get to have a house of that size, whether or not the rules would allow it in your specific terrain. I'm just not aware of that. One of the things that would minimize some of the impacts here was if the structures were reduced in size. To my mind, this is an excessive amount of rule changing that's being requested. That's a lot of trees, and that is a whole lot of development on over 25% slope in an area where we don't generally allow that. So best will in the world, I think that we're looking at a design that is proposed to be put in a place where it's not appropriate for that. It's not being designed to the site, it's being imposed on the site, and we're being asked to say that's okay and that the rules that we've put in place for slopes and trees are not the most important thing for us to be considering. So, as usual, that's my ongoing issue here, and I just have to say I can't support this application, and I have to challenge our design community to bring forward designs that better reflect the existing rules that everyone needs to comply with. I really feel strongly that way, and it's not a right to have a house the same size as your neighbor on a lot that's the last one. Basically, it's one of the undeveloped lots for a reason. If it was easy to develop, it probably would have been developed by now. So I myself can't support this application and would support staff's recommendation. Anybody else care to weigh in on this? Commissioner Gonzalez?
And I'm sorry, I guess it's more of a question that kind of follows some of the other commissioners, but the 2,200 cubic yards of fill, have we approved other projects that come close to that? It's a question, and I guess the other one is, did the fire department have anything to say as far as, because I imagine that from 2005 to now, that there are other trees that have grown, and will that decrease the possibility of fire or not? I guess those are my two questions.
Regarding the comments from the fire department, when this project went through the 30-day completeness review, the fire department deemed the application complete with no comments. So they did not address any additional tree growth from 2005. And then I believe we've approved projects with development on slopes and more cut and fill than is proposed here, but we were able to make the findings that there was no feasible alternative to developing where it required the excessive cut and fill.
Thank you.
Commissioner Daniels?
Yeah, because I believe this would probably be going to the Board of Supervisors on an appeal if we go with the staff recommendation, I just want to be able to say on the record something similar to what Chair Deal said, and that is that the regulations and the goals and policies that we have exist for a reason. And I'm just really sorry, I've got this feeling both times this has come before us that this applicant just feels like the rules don't apply to him. And I don't often feel that way. And actually, I don't think I really ever have. Well, there was this one home, I do remember. Never mind, it was in Pebble Beach. But I would support if Commissioner Deal was making a motion, or I would be happy to make it myself, to just go with the staff recommendation to deny the combined development permit and move on. Thank you.
So that's a motion to move staff's recommendation. I would take it as such. Is there a second? Commissioner Roberts seconds it. Discussion, Commissioner Work?
I would just have a question. Is the 25% slope, is it mainly because, is it so they do the appropriate and planting on this, for erosion control and all that? I mean, I see it as more of a, not that you can't build on it, but you just need to take the necessary actions to make sure that you don't cause any erosion trouble and all that. Is that true?
Staff want to just talk about that regulation and what it says?
Sure, through the chair. That is one thing that we do look at, is to ensure there isn't soil erosion and drainage issues. But the findings that we do have to make is that there's no feasible alternative. And in this case, there is a feasible alternative to locate a structure or development outside of slopes in excess of 25%.
Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
I just want to add that while I haven't been sitting here since 2005, I have been here maybe 2009, 2010. And in that time, it is a very rare occurrence that staff proposes a denial for a project. And I think it's because staff typically tries to work very hard with the applicant to get to a point of having a project that they can approve. And I mean, I literally, maybe on 3 projects have we gotten recommendations for denial. And so I am respectful of how hard staff has probably worked in trying to get to a point of being able to recommend this project, and I'm happy to support that.
Commissioner Mendoza?
Yes, looking at the project, the same thing, like where the swimming pool's at, you also have an additional, I believe it's the 2 or 3 car garage there with a bar and everything else. And it's true, just because the neighbors have something comparable to or what have you, means that we should be allowed to do the same thing on this parcel. I think that we can do a better job designing it where if you want to have a pool, there's definitely other areas where it could be done. And at this point, it's like, this is what we want. We don't want to work with staff. It's either take it or leave it, and we'll take it to the next level if you don't agree with us. And at some point, Commissioner Deal is exactly right. We have to start looking at these circumstances. If there are several trees that need to be removed, like in this one here, for instance, I was looking at page number 50, and there's probably 15 or 20 trees that are going to be removed from where that swimming pool is and the cabana is, and the bar in the cabana, that there's really no reason. If you move that elsewhere, it would not be in the way. The same thing where the house is being built. If it was moved forward or it was built in the bottom, it would not affect any of those trees. So at this point, I completely agree with staff. It does not look like a project that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Monsalve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to report that although I was absent at that meeting, I have watched it online, so I'm ready to vote. Thank you.
Commissioner. Further comments before we do that? Commissioner Gonzalez?
So let's assume that this is approved based on the recommendation of staff. And I guess the process would be that they would have to appeal it either to the Board of Supervisors, or they could go back and resubmit a different plan. Can they resubmit a different plan?
Secretary, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so if today the Planning Commission denies, the option is with this project, the applicant could appeal to the Board of Supervisors, and then pending the outcome there, should the applicant choose not to appeal to the Board of Supervisors but let the denial stand, then yes, the option would need to be coming back to apply for a different new project. I will look to staff, I believe, if it's not substantially different, there is a timeline for which 1 year, for which if they wish to reapply for a substantially similar project, it would be 1 year before that new application could be made.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner? Commissioner?
Yes, thank you. But if I can follow up with one more. I just have to say that, at this point, I would support staff recommendations. However, I have to say that in other projects, what we have, there is no feasible alternative. I don't know if that's a perception, because an alternative to some of the other projects could be from bringing a 5,000 square foot home down to a 3,000 square foot home, which is, I would think, is a feasible alternative. So anyways, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. We have a motion on the floor to support staff's recommendation for denial. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And the motion carries. Thank you, everybody. All right. What time is it? Okay. Moves us to our scheduled agenda item number 4. Agenda item number 4 is REF 240014, Strain Frederick S. Trust. Ms. Zepp, are you also on tap for this one?
Yes, thank you.
Take it away.
So I am prepared to present on this project today. However, the applicant informed me that they were not able to get the required notices posted on and near the property. So they are asking for a continuance so that they're able to properly notice the item before it's heard at the commission.
I'm going to refer to council to ask if that is an optional continuance.
Probably not. I think they have a right to be heard with projects that affect them within a certain number of feet. So I think that's pretty much mandatory.
That being the case, do we need to take public comment on it? Just for my own information.
Not if there's a successful motion to continue.
Okay. I'm going to allow everybody an opportunity to speak regardless, because there's never a rule against that. We've all heard what staff says. Is there any questions for staff? Seeing none on the dais, I'm going to open the public hearing and allow anybody who wishes to, starting with the applicant, to speak on this matter if they choose to do so. See no one in the chambers. I see no hands up on Zoom. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything?
No, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails.
Thank you. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and close any public comment on this and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners? I think we're looking for a motion to continue. Commissioner Gomez?
I'll move staff recommendation that we continue the matter.
Is it to a date certain? Do we anticipate that, or do we want to, what are we recommended on that?
To a date uncertain, because it wasn't noticed the first time, we'd have to renotice it, and the applicant did not tell me if they had a date certain in mind, and they're also possibly considering a redesign, so I'm not sure how long that would take, so I think a date uncertain is best.
Staff's recommending. Commissioner Gomez's motion is to continue this item to a date uncertain. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That? Commissioner Mendoza or Commissioner Mendoza, I think. That was the first one up. Is there further discussion about this?
I only get one.
Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? No. And the motion carries. The item is continued to a date uncertain. That brings us to item number 5 of our scheduled matters, which is PLN 140602, Jimenez Salvador Jr. Trust, AKA the Red Barn. I believe, Ms. Israel, are you taking this one?
Yes, I am.
All right, take it away.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Given the request for continuance made by the applicant and a representative of the Ballantree Estates Homeowners Association in the neighborhood, additional preparation is needed among these parties and with staff. Therefore, staff requests continuance of this item to date certain of August 28th, 2024.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff about that? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and invite the applicant or applicant's representative to come forward and speak to the matter. Mr. Lombardo, welcome.
Good morning, Chair Deal, members of the commission. Good news, Commissioners Getzelman and work be able to get down to that balmy South County weather pretty quickly this morning. I'm new to the file. Some of my colleagues have been working on it since 2014 when the application was filed. Mr. Panzer's got a long history with this. The property has a rather checkered history. It was owned by some people who didn't believe in following rules and ended up in litigation with the county. A judgment was entered against them. That was about that time Mr. Panzer started attempting to process applications to correct some of the violations. Mr. Jimenez, our client, purchased the property in July of 2020 and has done a much better job operating the facility and turned it from a bad place to a good place. The application was complete in 21 finally, so we've been working for a while to get to this point. However, there's some more work that needs to be done. Mr. Jimenez has, over the 3 years that the application's been complete, given further thought to what he wants to do there and been able to define, I think we'll be able to define better the scope of what he's proposing to do there, which should help us define the mitigations and conditions that are needed, because there's a disconnect now between the magnitude of what he wants to do there and the magnitude that the mitigations would mitigate. So it's unlikely that he'll be bringing another 500,000 people a year onto the site. And so we need to scale back some of the proposed mitigations in order to make it realistic for what we're doing. So we're going to meet with staff in the immediate future, meet with our neighbors, and hopefully come back to you at the end of August with a better defined project with better defined mitigations and limitations. So that's the reason for the continuance. Thank you.
I have a question, which is it realistic to think that that will all be completed within about a month so that we would get the staff report out?
I guess I'd have to look to Mary for that question, answer to that question. I think we've scheduled a meeting, but I don't know what, is it August 28th, or you want to go further? Just hate to do it to a date uncertain, because then there's a whole nother.
Understood.
Yeah,
I'm
so
mindful
maybe
of
September.
the report having to get in, and you've described a pretty significant amount of consideration that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I honestly think, in all honesty, which is not easy for a lawyer, but there's going to be some technical reports that probably have to be prepared that could take some while to do. Joel,
Joel Panzer, Maureen Ruck, Planning Consultants, also representing the applicant. In response to the chair's question, We've had, I want to say, 2 Zoom meetings with county staff, HCD and the health department. So I think we've got a pretty good sense on where we're going. We just received the staff report late on Friday, so now it's just kind of processing the implications of those conditions relative to the project scope. I think it's feasible to do that, and preparation of the staff report would be up to Ms. Israel.
Well, the deadline's not, but yes. Thank you, I appreciate that. Are there any further questions for the applicant or the applicant's representative? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, and it is now time for the public to comment. Anybody who would like to speak on this matter, please come forward. I don't see a rush to the front of the room. There not being very many people in the room, which, by the way, for a Red Barn hearing is unusual. Is there anybody online who would like to speak on this matter? I'm not seeing any hands. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything?
No, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails.
Very well. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it. Ms. Israel, did you want to comment on the timeline question? That being the only one that was raised.
Certainly, Chair. Staff has met with Joel Panzer many times on this, and I would note that the conditions of approval have been in a cellar where he could access them since 2019, but I do understand that there's a request for some changes to them at this time. I just want to note that if they are mitigation measures that are drastically changed, we may need to do an addendum to the mitigated negative declaration. So this is a date certain with the understanding that we're not changing things too much.
And of course, it being a date certain, if we're not ready, we can continue it further should that be necessary.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further technical questions for staff or Madam Secretary, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to reemphasize as well that Ms. Israel will work with the applicant to make clear what that kind of drop dead date is to make those final decisions on what would be needed to hold that continuance date for August, late August, and so she'll communicate that clearly, and then a decision will be made if that date can hold or if we do need additional time to accommodate the changes.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to bring it back to the dais. Commissioner Mendoza?
I think we actually should have listened to the project today, even though those conditions, you did not have time to review some of them as you stated, or did not go which direction you want to go to with that project. But we should have brought it before the commission, and that way, a lot of the questions we did have, we can put them out there, and probably it would be continued anyways, for say, don't know. But I'm just thinking that we had a really good opportunity to kind of put some of our information on there and get some feedback from you in reference to exactly what we're planning on doing with that project and addressing some of the concerns me as a commissioner have about it.
Thank you, Commissioner. I believe staff, the Secretary tells me the staff would be prepared to present if the commissioners would like that to happen. I'm not sure that in my mind that I would support that, because it appears to me that what is being considered now is a clarification that will likely reduce the potential impacts of the project. And what I'm concerned about is to share the project before those are reduced might create a kind of concern that won't be necessary when the actual project comes forward. And perhaps I'm a little gun shy. Previous Red Barn hearings have been held to an overflow crowd of the Monterey Room and then some. I think we even had the sheriff's deputy in here at one time. And so I'm feeling concerned about creating some kind of anxiety that may not be appropriate given the opportunity to reduce the scope of the project. But that's just me, maybe past experience, I don't know. So what does the commission think about what I know staff is ready to present if that's what the will of the commission is.
I kind of, I think the applicant's asking for a continuance. So I agree with the request. I think if you wanted to hear it, I might have a different thought. But the fact that they're asking for it, I think they want to work with the neighbors, which is a good thing, I think.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I agree with the applicant's request to move it to a future date. I think, as you mentioned, that we would be looking at information of a project that is not going to be set already. So for me, I'd rather wait to see what the project actually entails and then make a decision one way or the other at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mendoza, your thoughts?
I'm not asking you to listen to the project now, just in all fairness, a lot of the people that live in the area that were going to participate in today's hearing know about the continue, so therefore they're not here. So that is not what I'm asking for. I just thought it would have been beneficial to let things kind of run the way they were, listen to the project, and then from that point, go back and whatever changes you might pick up from that meeting would be beneficial. I'm thinking for the applicants, it would actually be fair to the applicant as well to listen what some of the residents in the area have to say and then address those things accordingly. So I think that's the opportunity that I feel was actually being missed.
Sort of a workshop kind of setting?
It kind of would have benefited both parties, per se.
Thank you. Other thoughts, commissioners? If we're going to do something, we have to have a motion.
I'll move continuance as requested by the applicant.
I am understanding Commissioner Gomez to be moving continuance to a date certain of August the 28th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a second for that motion? Commissioner Gonzalez seconds that motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And the motion carries. Very well. Thank you, everyone. And that brings us to our department report. I'm going to ask, I assume the secretary is prepared to give us a department report. Ms. Beretti.
I am, and I'm going to take my time today. I realized I forgot to provide some updates last time that I want to make sure to update today. Okay, so a couple of follow-ups that I wanted to provide is that at my last department update, I forgot to indicate to this commission that the East Garrison project amendments that were recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval with certain recommendations included from the Planning Commission, those recommendations got included, and that project was approved by the board on June 25th. Because there were amendments to successor agency agreements, that is going to the Consolidated Oversight Board this Thursday, the 11th, and then those amendments to the Development and Disposition Agreement will be forwarded to State Department of Finance. So the applicant is moving forward based on approvals, but it's still pending that final Department of Finance state approval. And so we'll report back when we have information on that. Also, at yesterday's Board of Supervisors meeting, the farm worker housing project in Pajaro off of Gonda Street that was considered by the commission, however, had a split vote and therefore effectively denied, was appealed. The board heard that appeal. They requested that the item be continued to September 10th. Both to allow Supervisor Alejo, so they only had 4 supervisors there, so to allow to have 5 supervisors there for consideration of the project. And there was also the request that during that timeline that staff and the applicant look at the possibility or what it could look like to consider high-density multifamily housing for residents as opposed to an H2A employee-sponsored housing project. And so we would expect on September 10th, when it returns, to be able to respond somewhat to that possibility as well as consider the H2A project. And please stop me if you have questions. Also wanted to inform and advise this commission that I did report back. The board did consider some updates and changes of the draft housing element that the public review period closed on June 11th. Staff is working on those changes, and we now have a date. We are targeting August 19th to both publicly post the updated draft housing element along with an updated sites inventory map for public, as well as submit to California Department of Housing and Community Development on August 9th. And then staff will be providing an update to the Board of Supervisors at its meeting on August 20th.
So if you could repeat again the date, August
19th
is the date that
we will submit to State Housing Community Development, and all of the materials will be posted publicly as well.
So what about the 7 days?
So staff did review. We're not legally required to do a second public review because we're responding to comments that we heard. And because of the nature of the changes, it was pushing our timeline for submittal to the state, and we do still have the letter of inquiry on our lateness for that submittal. We decided to get it submitted to the state as early as possible. Even with a 7-day posting ahead, we weren't going to be accepting comment and making any changes. And so it won't change that the next subsequent public review and consideration of comments will take into account public comment as well as state HCD's review. And then we will have another public posted review period.
So if I may, through the chair, my only concern is at the Board of Supervisors meeting, if I remember correctly, this was stated that was going to occur. And it was also very clear that there was going to be no public there was no response. We knew there was no response. And I only say this because I've had a couple inquiries as to when will the 7-day period start and when will we get to see? Because one thing that is not, no one has seen is after all the deliberation, what were the final RHNA numbers? Where are we in terms of what is being submitted to, not what were the final RHNA numbers, my apologies. What were the final numbers that the county would be submitting to the state to address our allocation? And where would those be? We agreed on sites, but all of the numbers that are associated. And so not that it would change anything. And I mean, I realized that it was very clear it's going to the state, and the Board of Supervisors determined that it would go to the state without a review, and then we would review it when it came back with state feedback. It is what we said. So is there any opportunity to really, I mean, there's no chance you believe to get it before the 19th out to the public, specifically 7 days out before the 19th?
So I think 7 days. We are working very hard, and we hope to have it not less than 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
We will post it as soon as we have it. Looking at the timeline, I think it would be a stretch to think 7 days, because that would, essentially eliminate staff's review. It would push the submittal date to state HCD. What I can do, and staff did consider this because we were clear. What I can do is follow up. I'd like the opportunity to follow up with our director and CAO to find the best way. Again, we're trying to balance kind of community expectations as well as compliance needs with state HCD. And so I will follow up to see. I don't think there's comfort in delaying submittal. Mm-hmm. But I do think we will work to get it posted as much before that date as possible. And then what I would like to do is follow up to see if there is a way in which we can sort of appropriately update and communicate. We have had a couple of individuals reach out to us requesting that, and we have been communicating this timeline.
So through the chair, if I may just add one more thing, I really want to stress that compliance with the state and what we said to the public should be totally different things. I mean, it's one thing if the state doesn't require it. I don't even think that matters. It really is about what was said, and if we can, and even if it's not the entire document, but it's the numbers associated with each site, or the updated sites inventory. I went somewhere recently and a whole community was still asking about a site that wasn't even on our list anymore. It had been gone since before we got it. So even if it was an updated sites inventory with the allocations for each site, that would be really helpful.
No, and I appreciate you said that, because that was actually my thought as well, that I do think we will have the numbers and the sites sooner than all of the time that it takes. And so that was my thought as well, is that we could most likely get a sites inventory updated and those numbers updated in advance, but not necessarily the entire document.
I like compromise. All right, Madam Secretary, you had more than that. I see your list.
Thank you, I did. All right, I wanted to just highlight to put on the commission's radar in case there's interest on a couple of items that are coming forward to the Board of Supervisors in the coming couple of months. So one, I wanted to put on your radar that we are looking to return once again with the Riverview project, which the Planning Commission did consider and did forward to the Board of Supervisors. That project is tentatively scheduled for August 13th at the Board of Supervisors.
My apologies for another question. Riverview.
So Riverview is the project that is in Las Palmas 1.
So I do know which one it is. My question is, it came to us, then it went to the Board of Supervisors, and it was, I think, modified a bit in terms of the affordable housing percentage. But why is it coming back to us?
It's not coming back to you. It's going to the Board of Supervisors.
Got it.
It's not coming back to the Planning Commission. Staff is working to incorporate the recommended or agreed upon changes from the board, and therefore it's going back to the board for its reconsideration on August 13th. And then on August 27th, we have a couple of items. One that, and I had announced it, but I will probably continue to announce it for the public record. We are still tentatively scheduled for August 27th for the vacation rental ordinances and final EIR to go before the Board of Supervisors. Again, that was your commission had considered those ordinances. You recommended that we forward them to the Board of Supervisors with some recommended changes, as well as to do a little bit of research to present a couple of key topics for consideration and options to the board. So staff is prepared to bring a responsive packet forward to the board on August 27th. And then I did also, it's been a while, but there was some outstanding litigation from the 2010 general plan, and we had our Salinas Valley groundwater basin investigation that had been ongoing. So because water is such a keen topic in this area, I wanted to just inform the this commission and anyone listening that we are also tentatively scheduled on August 27th to bring forward the conclusion of that investigation, which will include some discussion of policy recommendations and others that arose out of that investigation, and that's tentative for the 27th.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yeah, I had raised my hand, but anyways, as far as the housing element document, I had a question on that particular item. And I just, my question is, when you, I guess, put out the housing element document so that the public can see it, do we put the information in terms of the process that it's going to be submitted and or has been submitted and whatever that process where the public is going to have an opportunity to comment on that? So I'm not sure how it's presented to the public in the internet. Like I guess you said that there's going to be the housing element document that's going to be set up for the county website or wherever. But when that's placed there, is there a preceding information that says this is what was done and this is going to happen, or is it all in the document?
Got it. Okay. So what you're what I think what you're asking is just what form will it take? So staff has been staff has been incorporating the comment and specifically the direction that we received from the board into the document itself, and that we would then post both a sites inventory map with the RHNA numbers as well as the entire housing element document. We had not contemplated, but I think it may be a good idea, perhaps a cover memo that staff could accompany that just indicates to the, largely to the public, what the major changes that they would be looking at between the public draft document and the draft that is posted and submitted to state HCD. So what those generally responsive comments were. So I'll take a note for staff to develop a memo. I think if that's a little bit of what you were getting at, I think actually that's a good idea just for transparency and tracking. Yeah, and in that we can also include sort of next steps and timing for anticipation for those who'd like to continue to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else?
Just one last thing. I wanted to sadly take the opportunity to thank Ms. Elizabeth Vasquez, who she has done an amazing job supporting our team and supporting our commission. And as with many of our stars, they also, as she has looked for upward and opportunities for mobility and advancement. And so she will be leaving Housing and Community Development. She'll be leaving our team to go on to really build and grow on what she's done with us. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank her and let you all know. But we are also in very good hands with our staff who is here. So just thank you, Elizabeth.
Can we vote on that? I know. I'm gonna move against it, although I really appreciate, I appreciate everything that you have done, Ms. Vasquez, absolutely, and wherever you're going, they're lucky. I do have one question for you, Ms. Beretti. I heard had some anticipation that the ADU ordinance was coming back. I had a question about when that might be expected.
Yes, it is coming back, but let me just pull up so I don't accidentally twist my dates around, because I have a lot of dates. Yes, we are moving forward tentatively for July 31st. Staff's confident that we will be able to make that date, but there is always a chance that we might need a little extra time.
Just related to your question, I've received a letter from members of LULAC in North Monterey County regarding the ADU ordinance in the coastal area. Is that also part of that conversation?
Yeah, so yes, so this is what will be coming is updates to the board in 2020 approved updates to Title 20 and Title 21 for accessory dwelling units. Coastal Commission did not certify the Title 20, so staff has been working with them. So we will have now updates to get to adoption with the Coastal Commission and certification for Title 20 in the coastal zone, as well as some now updates needed for consistency with state law for our inland ordinance, but that will likely come subsequent. There will also be prompted land use plan updates in order to implement those coastal ADUs for the Big Sur Coast Land Use Plan, as well as some minor edits in the Carmel Area Land Use Plan, but no anticipated changes to the North County Land Use Plan.
Very well. Commissioner Monsalve.
Thank you. I'm just wondering the status of the request to remove a LUAC member.
So the letter has been sent, and we did have a timeline for getting response, but I don't believe it was prior to today. So I need to follow up with staff to see what the response came, and then we'll be able to take next steps.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the, wait. I think we should do public comment. Oh, we were supposed to do public comment. Does the public want to comment on anything that we have just heard? There's nobody in the chambers except Ms. Israel, so unless you want to come forward, I think we can say not in the chamber. I see no hands up on Zoom. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything?
No, there's no hands up on Zoom and no new emails.
Then I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Thank you, Council. I don't want to ever forget that. At which time I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 10:25 a.m. Thank you, everybody.